on here. So Jack Dorsey leaving Twitter. This is going to get very interesting. This stock, I think, could get hit pretty hard. But I think ultimately, at the end, this could be a really good thing for social media. Hear me out as to why. It's actually going to be the reverse of what they intend. And then also, I think Jack Dorsey is going to make some very big moves into crypto now that he has more free time. So take a look at where he is headed right now with this. So he sent out an email this morning. So take a look at Twitter stock, by the way. Twitter stock was trading at around $77, kind of around that 60 to 70 range about 10 months ago. And now we are seeing just a massive sell-off. And so Jack Dorsey sent out a letter today, and this departure letter, he goes on to say, hello, team. After almost 16 years of having a role at the company, from former CEO to former CEO to chair to exec chair to interim CEO to CEO, I decided it's finally time for me to leave. Why? There's a lot of talk about the importance of a company being founder-led. Ultimately, I believe that's severely limiting a single point of failure. I've worked hard to ensure that this company can break away from its founding and founders. There are 3 reasons I believe now is the right time. The first is Parag. So Parag being CEO, most people don't know who he is. Listen to what he said last year so you can get an idea of where Twitter is likely headed. So in an interview last year, the incoming CEO of Twitter, Parag, made it clear that free speech is not a priority for the company and that his platform would not be bound by the First Amendment. The kind of things that we do about this focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. In an interview with MIT Technology Review last year, he said our role is not bound, again, by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation, and our moves are reflective of the things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. You listen to that. So you're likely going to see a lot more of that on Twitter, and the kinds of things that we do about this is focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. He said a priority of the company was directing people's attention to tweets that served healthy conversations. So I believe what we're going to see at Twitter is going to be more extreme versions of what we've already seen over the last couple of years. I think that the conversation at Twitter is going to be, less of a real dialogue and more of a one-way type of conversation, which I think ultimately could lead people to more, alternative options, which I think is ultimately long-term is going to be good for people. But I think what Jack is really doing, I'm going to finish up his letter here because it's pretty interesting. So he goes on to say, the second is, the board ran a rigorous process considering all options and unanimously pointed to Parag. He's been my choice for some time, given how deeply he understands the company and its needs. Parag has been behind every critical decision that's helped turn this company around. He's curious, probing, rational, creative, demanding, self-aware, and humble. He leads with heart and soul and is someone I learn from daily. My trust in him as our CEO is bone deep. The second is Brett Taylor agreeing to become our board chair. I asked Brett to join our board when I became CEO, and he's been excellent in every way. He understands entrepreneurship, taking risks, companies at massive scale, technology, product, and he's an engineer. All of the things the board and the company deserve right now. Having Brett in this leadership role gives me a lot of confidence in the strength of our board going forward. You have no idea how happy this makes me. The third is all of you. We have a lot of ambition and potential in this team. Considering this, Parag started here as an engineer who cared deeply about our work, and he's now our CEO. I had a similar path. He did it better. This alone makes me proud. I know that Parag will be able to channel his energy best because he's lived it and knows what it takes. All of you have the potential to change the course of this company for the better. I believe this with all my heart. Parag is CEO starting today. I'm going to serve on the board until my term, Mayish, to help Parag and Brett with the transition. And after that, I'll appoint the board. Why not stay or become chair? I believe it's very important, really important, to give Parag the space he needs to lead. And back to my previous point, I believe it's critical. A company can stand on its own, free from its founders' influence or direction. I want all of you to know that this was my decision and I own it. It was tough for me. And of course, I love this service and company and all of you so much. I'm really sad, yet really happy. There aren't many companies that I get to this level, and there aren't many founders that choose their company over their ego. I know we'll prove this was the right move. We'll have an all-hands meeting tomorrow at 9:05 a.m. Pacific to discuss it all. Until then, thank you for the trust you've placed in me and for the openness to build the trust in Parag and ourselves. P.S. I'm tweeting this email for my one wish for Twitter to become the most transparent company in the world. Well, you can't beat that. They're being pretty transparent here with Parag's intentions, saying that they are going to lead the conversation the way that they want to lead it, right? And so, yes, why would Jack Dorsey step down? What I think is ultimately going to happen here is I think that they're going to really rev Twitter up in that direction. I think that it's going to get harder and harder for people to have, opposing interest and views on Twitter. And I think that ultimately we could see a lot more of this sell-off that we've been seeing. When people are selling this stock like they're selling it, it to me, what it's showing is a lack of faith in the company and the direction of that company. And I think right now, over what we've seen over the last couple of years, it's become more apparent, what Twitter really is as a platform. And so when we're seeing what Jack is going to do, I personally think he's going to go much harder in Bitcoin, and he sees more potential. And he's talked about Bitcoin and crypto a lot more from this perspective of it being the future and the highest value for him. So he goes on to say that he stepped down as CEO on Monday, citing his belief that the company was ready to move on from its founders, right? But he said, if I were not at Square or Twitter, I'd be working on Bitcoin. Dorsey told a crowd Bitcoin in 2021, a mega conference in Miami, decentralization of power on the internet is a major personal theme for Dorsey. At Twitter, he spearheaded the funding of a project called Blue Sky, which envisions a set of openly published standards for social media companies. So users of different social media networks can communicate more easily with one another. New Twitter CEO Parag has been central to chasing this vision, which recalls the way the internet was originally built on top of common standards. So he's moving on to much bigger goals than just, sitting at Twitter. He can do everything that he's doing now by stepping back and allowing someone else to kind of drive that car. And he steps over and does something that he thinks has much more, long-term value in his eyes. Dorsey has also been a vocal advocate of decentralizing the workspace. Twitter was one of the first companies to announce the option for employees to work from home indefinitely in the wake of this. In addition, Dorsey had discussed relocating part-time to Africa as a way to work decentralized, although he drew back on that plan as this grew more serious. Tom Lee, the head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors, told the Change of the Guard he's bullish for crypto. There isn't enough capital actually allocated towards crypto innovation, so it takes people like Dorsey to really marshal focus. I think Dorsey is probably one of the last people that we need to marshal focus towards crypto. Square push into crypto. Square has also dialed up its crypto-focused projects this year, with Dorsey now free from its responsibilities at Twitter. Many are keen on crypto's tasks Square has chosen to take on next. The company launched Bitcoin trading in 2018 with Cash App, allowing users to buy and sell Bitcoin. In 2019, the company formed Square Crypto, an independent team dedicated to contributing to Bitcoin open source work. And just last year, Square launched the cryptocurrency Open Patent Alliance. Another thing that could be very possible here is that he's timing this exit at a time where he realizes he's looking at the Turkish lira, he's looking at currencies all over the world, they're losing value. You have people that are, for example, Apple, they pulled out for a few days. They increased the prices of their goods to, inflation was 22% last week, another 4% today, just in Turkey, 43% over the year. So what's happening, as I think, is people are just going to start stockpiling cash into things that they can store value in. It could be gold, it could be silver, it could be Bitcoin, it could be anything that they can store. And he believes, I personally think he believes there's going to be a lot more attention focused on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And right now, if he takes the lead away from, takes steps back from Twitter and takes the lead into cryptocurrency, he has not just the connections, the manpower, and the capital, but he has also the knowledge as to maybe some news or information coming out before other people. Look at Bill Ackman and what he did in March of 2020 that I just covered. He made $2.675 billion on one single trade that he influenced. And with Jack Dorsey and the connections, everything that he has going on, he probably has a lot more potential in a global space like crypto when most people are still not invested. Most people are still not invested in Bitcoin, but if they're losing 5% or 10% on their currency per quarter in their country, people are, their wages aren't increasing. So they're losing the purchasing power and they're losing their ability to build out financial security. So people are, I think, are going to continue flowing into crypto. And Dorsey realizes that. So I think that we're going to see some really, really big moves from not just Dorsey, but other tech founders into the crypto space. But I do think that Twitter is going to move in a very, very one-way direction. That's going to take away a lot of users. I think users are going to continue flocking to other platforms. And I hope that Twitter does wake up eventually. But I think that they're okay with losing those users. They just want one group of users, and that one group of users is part of the sacrifice that they're going to make to build out that brand even more. But what do you guys think about this? Tech seems, yep. Anyone buying? Yeah. Internet's pretty much gray. Anyone value? Yep. MySpace 2.0. I fully agree with that. MySpace 2.0. Yeah, but big news. Let's see what happens with Twitter. I'm going to keep you guys updated on this. But I think Dorsey, I'll bet anything on it, that he's going to go full-fledged 100 miles an hour into Bitcoin, crypto in that space. And he's going to have some really, really big actions being taken on that space in the next 6 to 12 months. Mark my words on that, and I'll keep you guys up to date.